Good morning. Thank you, Ken. Part of Ken's talk on the discipline part was a very good segue into my brief intervention topic, behavior modification, because there needs to be basic discipline working, or you need to go back to square one and get the basic discipline working before you go to a brief intervention like behavior mod. For instance, the limit setting and timeouts and logical and natural consequences. You want to make sure that you review that with the parents. And what you're choosing a brief intervention of behavior mod for is a specific behavior or a couple of behaviors that are not, the child is either in a power struggle with the parent and parents, or it's repeated behavior that the parent throws up their hands and says, I can't manage this. So after reviewing the discipline techniques and the general family situation, then you can go to a brief intervention suggestion. So today I want to talk about what behavior modification is and what the steps are that you would work with a parent in designing a plan, and then some case examples. There's my disclosure. Before the rationale, I just want to say that often I don't say to the parents, let's try behavior modification, because I have had so many times when they've said, I've tried it, it doesn't work, or they've said, I am not going to bribe my child, that's out, or they say, why should I reward my child for things that they should be doing anyway? So I've turned it into more statements of, I think maybe an incentive plan might work, and then I talk about what that is, or just simply say, have you tried sticker charts? We find that very successful, or point sheets, so that you can get into explaining to the parents what your idea is and they don't turn it off right away. So the rationale is quite well known that a child's behavior causes reaction in the family, and how the environment reacts to a behavior may increase it or decrease it. So positive consequences, praise and reward, tend to strengthen behaviors, or removing negative consequences also strengthen behavior, or lack of positive reinforcement will weaken behaviors, such as talking about ignoring tantrums. So if you don't reinforce the tantrums, they hopefully will phase out, or negative consequences, punishment, will weaken behavior. So the one that we're utilizing for behavior modification as a brief intervention is the concept that positive consequences will strengthen specific behaviors. It's a useful tool for parents, as we said, to change undesired behavior. Also, when you want to start a behavior that the child doesn't do, like chores or making their bed or going to sleep without a fuss, then you can also chart that and reinforce the behavior you want. So it can be used for stopping or starting behavior. And we already said it's useful when usual discipline doesn't work, and also when parents and child are in frequent power struggles over their behavior. And a case comes to my mind that I just have to share with you because it was so gratifying that in a short period of time, that's the other thing I like about behavior modification. When it works, and it doesn't take long, and then you can phase out the plan. I had a child and parent, a 9-year-old girl in Bel Air, whose parent was a single mother who was a mathematician and went to Washington, D.C. every day for her job. And she was very, put a lot into her job, and it was quite demanding. So the child was in before school daycare, she was at school, she was in after school daycare, then her mother picked her up, she had a late dinner, had to do her homework and go to bed. And on the weekends, the mother had to do all her chores. So there was no good individual time, and there really wasn't much fun happening. And the child was negative, negative, negative. And the mother and the child came in, and the mother was just, she said, she's always saying no, she won't do something, I can't even think of her doing chores, she won't even, I have to prompt her to get dressed for school, and she said she didn't used to be that way, but it's all negative, negative. And the child was very disgruntled, not to the point of clinical depression, but you could see the negativity and the power struggle between the two of them. So I suggested that we do a behavior chart and put a couple of behaviors that the child does well. She always ate a good dinner, and she always walked the dog. So those were two positive behaviors. And then we put two behaviors to change on there. And one was making her bed, the mother wanted that, and the other was doing what mother says without a fuss, which seems rather broad, but basically this was the behavior that needed changing. Well, long story short, we started the plan, and there was a phone call follow-up after 1 week, and we fine-tuned that she needed one warning before she lost her star on the star chart, because this behavior was so ingrained in her. The follow-up in 2 weeks was in the office, and her reinforcers were going to be stars on a chart, plus at the end of 1 week, if she got enough stars, she would get she would go out to for dessert with the parent. Well, I have very simple charts. They're pieces of paper, and they have the days of the week at the top, and they have the behaviors you're talking about on the left, and there's like circles that you can put the stickers in. Well, the mother had remade a chart. It was still simple, but it was on a beautiful poster paper, and she had some drawings, and so she had really invested herself in the plan. And the child was 1 star off the number we had set, and the mother begged me to let her have the reward. So in other words, the mother was now invested in helping the child, and the child was working. So I think that was a good example of a parent being invested in the plan and actually getting the child into the plan. So how do you design a plan with a parent and a child? First, you need to know what behavior they want the child to change, either start or stop. Could be fighting, talking back, cursing. Start behavior could be doing homework, making the bed, doing chores. So you want to know what the behavior to change is, and what does the mother or the parents want in the place. It's pretty obvious in fighting and in talking back what they want is the behavior to stop. And when you have a start behavior, that's pretty obvious. But I had a grandmother once who brought in her 10-year-old grandson for whom she was the primary parent. And her problem was that he just didn't always obey her. And she was very directive in the office. Sit up straight, talk to the doctor, look at the doctor. So you could tell that she was really micromanaging his behavior. So she wanted to change his statements of being disgruntled when she would give him a directive. And he would say things like, I don't want to do it, I don't like you. So I had to ask her what she wanted him to say, because I said, you know, kids often don't really want to do what you say, or you catch them at a bad time. So it would be good for him to have an outlet of something he could say. So she thought about it, and we explored different things like, oh, sugar, or oh, I don't want to, but I will. Anyway, she concluded that he could say, oh, man. And so that's the substitute behavior. So that was the behavior that she wanted. The next thing is you need to note the current frequency of the behavior to be changed, because the goal is to decrease the frequency and eventually eliminate it. So you need to know the frequency currently to design your chart and see how you're going, and have the frequency decrease. Now, sometimes parents will say, it's just too many to count. I don't know, doctor. He's just always sullen and talking back to me. And so they're vague. So you don't have a really good idea of how many times this behavior is actually happening. So either you can take like a typical day with the parent right in the office, or if you have the luxury of more appointments than once every 6 months, then you can ask the parent to go out for a week and take a diary on one day of that behavior. And you ask them to take the ABCs of the behavior. And that means what happens just before the behavior, that's the A. What is the behavior? Talking back, or fighting brother, or teacher said, fought 6 times in school. So that's the behavior. And then C is the consequence that happened at that time, the consequence of the behavior. Then they can bring it in, and you can see this behavior actually happened 12 times that day. And you say to the parent, is that typical? And the parent says yes. So that's your baseline. Then you decide on the method of charting. Sticker charts work well for young children. Point lists and calendars are appropriate for older children. 8 and 9 are kind of the borderline. Some 9-year-olds love sticker charts. I had one boy tell me, 9, that's baby stuff, I'm not going to do it. So I said, oh, that's right, you are an older boy. Let's do a calendar with checks on it. So you want to adjust to the age that you have. Then you need to choose intervals for your observing and recording of the behavior. And that would be related to the frequency. So for a behavior occurring throughout the day, you want to choose logical intervals, and I'm going to show you examples of that. For a once-a-day behavior, then you would just record daily. And it's better to see examples than to just say it in without the examples. So we'll get back to that. Then you decide what the reinforcers will be for the desired behavior. Praise should always be given, and Ken again did a really good job of emphasizing the importance of praise, and catch your child being good, which will go without saying as a background of this plan. Stickers, points, checks are immediate reinforcers. These can add up to a secondary reinforcer, like a treat after a number of stickers are earned. Toys, extra playtime, or a game with the parent, or parents for younger children, extra allowance, or privileges for older kids. Yes? Okay, that's a very good question. I was kind of going to say that. No, let me say it now. How much do you include the child in the plan? You want you and the parent to decide the intervals and the reinforcers. The parent will know what kinds of things the child likes and doesn't usually get, and that's what you want for reinforcers. Something the child would want but doesn't usually get, something that doesn't take a lot of time or a lot of money. If you give the child the choice, then they could choose something that is not appropriate or is not doable. So you coach the parent to come up with an idea of a good reinforcer. And then when you present it to the child, you present what the chart's going to look like, and you present the plan to the child. So they really don't have the choice of deciding what their reinforcer is, because you could get into difficulty. But you know, I've done it different ways so far as having the child in the room when we're talking about it, and I'll look at the child and I say, this is a way that you're going to be able to get your good habits back on track, and you're going to get stickers, and you're going to get a prize at the end. That's if you and the parent have already decided. So I'd say the first appointment, you and the parent decide. Then you bring the child in. And when you're explaining it to the child, you and the parent want to be very confident and upbeat about the plan. I call it like the behavior mod pep talk. And you're the coach for the parent, and the parent's the coach for the child. So does that sound reasonable? Then you decide on the interval for reinforcement. The interval for getting the reward or reinforcer should be shorter for younger children than for older, because they can't keep the goals in their memory as well as the older children. So for instance, chores for an older child, you could reinforce that it could add up to something at the end of the week. But for a younger child, and you're trying to establish the habit of dressing themselves, that would be every day, and it might even break the dressing down into components for a younger child and give stars for each accomplishment. Yes?
Do you ever have to emphasize with your patients that once they've earned their star, you'll remove it or not that? I sometimes get parents think that would be okay.
Don't take it away. That brings up another important point. And since I'm taking it from our clinical standpoint rather than the extent of actually the way you could work different plans, that would be called a cost. And you could have a cost. You could take away points. You could have, let's say, a teenager you're trying to modify cursing behavior, and they have a chart, and so you give them points if they go a period of time without it, and then you take away points. So you can do that. I usually choose not to do that unless a parent really wants to do that and they are older children. I don't do it with the younger children because I think it does confuse them. But that is another decision, whether you will have a cost and whether you will take away. Actually, I had somebody tell me when we were talking, it was a resident, we were talking about behavior modification, and she said that her brother and his wife and the 10-year-old happened to be very accomplished and very bright, so they had this extravagant plan that she had to get 100 points for reading a certain number because she was falling down on her number of books she was supposed to read for her school for a period of time. So she got to 75, and she did some behavior that it was a misbehavior that she doesn't usually do, like talking back to them, and she didn't usually do that. So the father took all 75 points away from her. The resident is saying to me, she was there and she felt like saying, no, don't do it. But she did not interfere with I think it was the brother-in-law, because, you know, if you interfere at that point, then the message to the child is he doesn't know what he's doing. So luckily, they instituted it back again, and she could earn it back, and she didn't have to earn 100 to get her reward. It could be 50. Well, to us as we're learning this and teaching this, it isn't the kind of plan that I would set up, but it shows you that the different ideas, and luckily it was all right with that family because she was a hard worker. Thank you for the question. Then the clinician and parent present the plan to the child, discussing the goals, the chart, and the rewards in a clear, not complicated fashion, with enthusiasm. And both the child and the parents need to be willing to try the plan. If the parents really aren't invested, it is not going to work. If the child says, I'm not doing that, it's not going to work. You can try to talk them into it. Oh, it's easier than it looks. Don't you want to get the stickers and get the extra treat? But if they continue to say no, then it will not be a good plan. Okay. First example, 4-year-old fighting with peers at preschool and with 2-year-old sibling at home. The frequency of behavior is 4 to 6 times a day. The charting is a sticker chart. The interval for observing and recording is morning at school, afternoon at school, and 3 on at home. The interval for the reward is 1 sticker for each interval of no fighting. And then it was decided to do a secondary reward of an edible treat for 2 stickers at the end of the day. You don't always need to do a secondary reinforcer, especially in young children. They love to see the stickers going up, and if it's all moving very positively in that way, you might not even need a secondary reward. The other thing is beware of edible treats. And I said edible treat, and parents often like a dessert or something, and I caution them to not have it be candy. Have it be something that is something the child doesn't usually get. And even though it's a sweet, I kind of say okay to ice cream or some kind of a food treat that they don't usually get, but not candy. So Tommy's sticker chart, you also want to put the behavior to modify in positive terms. It really helps. I am not sure why it helps, but it really helps the tenor and the child's goal seeking. Keep hands and feet to myself instead of don't fight. They hear that a lot. You're trying to get out of the negative model and into the positive model. So you see Tommy was able to get a treat on Monday and Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So he really bought into the plan, and his parent bought into the plan. Second example, a 9-year-old you want to have make her bed and eat a good dinner every day. Currently, she has 4 out of 7 days that she does both behaviors. They might be different days, but 4 out of 7, she eats a good dinner. 4 out of 7, she makes her bed. The desired frequency is daily. She's going to have a sticker chart, and the interval for observing and recording is daily. So she'll get stickers for each of the target behaviors if she does them. The secondary reward is going out for dessert on Friday if she has enough stickers. So you want her to receive the reward. So you make it easy at first. So you're really kind of guessing what can she do so far as number of improvements in the first week. So you're always guessing at first to set that number for the reward. So you're guessing that and you definitely, it has to be one better. You can't have it stay the same, or it wouldn't be a behavior chart. So you want her to get 10 stickers for the dessert, and actually she gets 11. So she gets it the first week, she goes out for dessert. Then you make it harder, and you say to the parent and to her that she's engaged in it, and you guess again how fast can she progress on the behavior. So you're guessing that she can do 2 better than 10. So you want her to, well, she's done 11. Maybe you make it 13. See, it's like trial and error, but you're always progressing her. And what do you do if she doesn't make it? What do you think you should do if she didn't make 10? She only got 9. Right, you can talk to her, and sometimes we bring in reminders. Actually, I didn't include reminders in here, so that helps the children. Sometimes you have to drop back and make it easier. I have a good example for that, of making it easier with a behavior mod plan. I work at a school for seriously emotionally disturbed children in Baltimore City. And there are 60 to 65 students there, kindergarten through 5th grade. And they are on a very substantial behavior management plan. And they get reminders and they get rewards for different things. But their main plan is 50 points a day is the maximum. And they get a point, 5 points for bus behavior, 5 points for each of their classes, 5 points for lunch behavior. So it can add up to 50. Well, last year, there were so many meltdowns when the children did not make 50 points. Because if you make 50 points at the end of the day, you get it announced over the loudspeaker, you get chits to go to an achievement party, and you get praise from all the clinicians. So kids were having meltdowns, and they didn't want to go home. They were fighting and screaming because also the parents want them to get the 50 points. So kind of obvious, you know, it's too bad it took us a whole year to decide that we shouldn't expect them to be perfect. So we changed it to bands. A green band was 40 to 50 points, and a lot more of the kids make 40 to 50 points. So it was like, aha. But it illustrates that principle. So the child gradually changes to the desired behavior. The plan may need fine-tuning. The reinforcers may need changing. And the interval for reinforcement may need changing. When the behavior improves, as I said before, and becomes habit, the plan can be phased out. It's typically seen within 2 to 3 weeks, and often the plan can be phased out in 5 or 6 weeks. And sometimes they'll forget it. The parent will say, oh, I forgot it. She's doing it anyway. So you praise her and you carry on. Last example, Molly's going to school. This one surprised me that it happened so fast. I thought this child and parent were locked into a school phobia. A 6-year-old crying and resistance to going to school. The workup of school avoidance revealed no special circumstances. The dynamics of school avoidance were discussed with the parents, how unconsciously, and this was the mom because the father already left for work, unconsciously didn't want her child to go to school sick, and it was okay for her to have the child home. This is all unconscious, but you have to remind her the child's job is to go to school. We need to get her to school. So here are the criteria for you to keep her home: fever, vomiting, pale. And so you're familiar with that kind of protocol. Also, the school personnel were brought on board to support her as she got off the bus to go into the front door and as she went from the front door to her classroom, because the mother had resorted to driving her to school, but she had a bus she could get on, and then the mother would take her back home if she was crying with stomach aches. So you set up your plan. The frequency of the behaviors every school day. The charting was going to be checks on a chart. The interval for recording and reinforcing was divided into 3 intervals. One was for getting on the bus, and all this is without a fuss. The second interval was walking into the school, and the third was walking into class. Then there was going to be a secondary reward. Every 4 checks, she would get a gold sticker. See, you just make it up, or the parent may make it up, but we wanted a secondary reinforcer to see if we could move things quicker. And then for 2 gold stickers, she got a $1 toy. So the chart says, go to school without a fuss. And she only has the school days at the top. So get on the bus, go to school door, go into class. And so actually, and then, see, get on the bus. She did fuss with the mother, and she did not get a sticker. But the mother was instructed to get her on that bus no matter what. If she's still crying, do it. And she didn't have any of the sick criteria. So then she got better and went to the school door and into class. So by Tuesday, she got a gold sticker, and by Friday, she got another one. So she got a toy from the grab bag. And like I say, I really was surprised at how quickly this was. In 3 weeks, she was getting all of her stickers. Then it reinforces itself, which I forgot to say, but I think you realize. The good behavior reinforces itself because she's happier, she's doing what she's supposed to, her parents are happier, her school's happier, and so forth. So in summary, keep the plan as simple as possible, clearly explain with positivity. And frequently your follow-up can be by phone. May need fine-tuning and further discussion with parents. Now, pitfalls. The parents may be overwhelmed. They may misunderstand the goals. They may be too angry at the child to follow through with the plan. Then you will need to work with them further. The child may be too negative to work for incentives, and the child may need further evaluation or a different kind of treatment. There could be confusion and conflict among the caretakers regarding the plan, and you're familiar with that, so you want to bring in primary members who will be with the child when these behaviors are occurring. And I said before, the reward schedule may be too difficult to achieve and may need to be adjusted. And remember, behavior modification plans are not meant to replace discipline. And you want to have limit setting, consequences, timeouts, and so forth. Thank you.